What up, HyperChange? Welcome to another episode. Shooting this on IG Live. We are at the Tesla factory. I don't know if you could see Fremont, California. We'll wait for a couple people to join. I'm here with Julian, HyperChange advisor, Tesla shareholder. We just got, I believe, the first private factory tour from Martin Viecha given to non-institutional investors. So for those who don't know, like all the analysts, Baird, Nomura, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, all their analysts get to come down to the Tesla factory, get private tours from Tesla, see all this cool stuff, and they write about it in a notes to their clients. It never really makes it out to the press. So we went on this tour that the bankers get to go on, which was an unbelievable opportunity. So huge shout out to Tesla and Martin for taking us on that tour. I couldn't film anything. We weren't allowed to film anything in the factory, so I don't have any footage there, but I am allowed to talk about it. And so that's what we're doing now. We're gonna do a recap. So basically, the way the Fremont factory, for those who don't know, we're in Fremont, California. It's on the other side of the Bay of SF, about an hour away from SF. It's sort of like in the middle of nowhere, Silicon Valley. And basically this is where Tesla builds all of their cars. Tesla builds their drivetrain and their battery packs at the Gigafactory in Nevada. But at this factory in California, they build and assemble all of their cars, the Model 3, the Model S, and the Model X. And so we went on a tour of the factory. We got to see, they're basically split up, and Julian, you're gonna have to chime in and help me here. They basically split up the factory into 4 different regions, or 4 different steps of building the car. So the first one is stamping. So this is when they get sheets of metal that come into the factory, and they have these massive presses that stamp them 4 to 5 times until each piece of metal becomes a part, let's say the hood of the car. So they take all of this metal that's coming into the factory, stamp it, and then eventually that metal goes on to step number 2, which is welding, where they weld all those metal pieces that they stamp together, and then they get the frame of the car. And then step number 3 is the paint shop. We didn't actually see the paint shop. That was the one thing we didn't see because you need to wear all this protective gear, and it was super busy, so they don't show people the paint shop. But that's step number 3, and all the first 3 stages here, the stamping, the welding, the paint, are almost 100% automated. Like, this is, robots are doing this. Like, what's so amazing about the Tesla factory, and why I love seeing it, and as an investor, it makes me so much more excited and bullish in the company. Like, it's really hard to comprehend just how disruptive and massive, and like just the complexity of what's happening here at the Tesla factory. Like, you walk, there's robots everywhere. There's like 3 stories. These robots are picking up cars, moving them over your head. Like, the one robot's welding stuff together. Like, it's just incredible. And so where was it? Okay, paint shop number 3, and then step number 4 is the general assembly. And so this is the part that requires a bunch of more manual labor. This is the part that, according to the IR team, they are looking to automate about 15% of. A traditional automaker would automate between 0 to 5% of general assembly. So although general assembly for Tesla use a lot of human workers, it's actually still vastly more automated, or will be, than what the traditional industry standard is. And then what we saw is the tent, the inevitable tent, which is used to augment the capabilities for the 4th step, general assembly. So basically what happened is
I wouldn't say augment. It's really just they moved some of the general assembly that was supposed to be happening inside the factory, and initially they were trying to set it up to be, straight out of the gates at that 15% automation, and that's all the noise we're hearing on the media in terms of the trouble of ramping up to get to the 5,000 cars per week. And they built this tent from the ground up to be way more efficient. You basically have the body of the car transported.
But why did they need to build the tent? I feel like we should give that context.
Well, they needed to build the tent because essentially what it sounded like was they tried to automate everything into this U shape, which is the current structure of 2 of the lines for Model 3 assembly. And what ended up happening was, if you could imagine it kind of in 3D, the first layer was all of these like Amazon style conveyor belts.
Yeah, just like moving all the parts underneath actually the production line
to bring to lifts to get to the actual where the body of the car was moving, so people could bolt on and put in the upholstery and things like that. But they couldn't get the timing right. Parts weren't arriving at the right station at the right time. So they ended up scrapping that whole thing. They hired 100, 150 people to essentially
120 people
replace
the conveyor belt system. And that they said it seemed like they tried for months to actually get that to work. And that's just one of the things that's like what they're doing is so difficult, and these type of manufacturing things have never actually been set up before, that there's just a ton of learnings that go on. So they messed up, and then basically it's not that they messed up, but like the capacity of that general assembly area wasn't going to be 5,000 per week, which they need to get to. So they had to build a new general assembly line to do a couple thousand a week. So in total, it would add up to 5,000, and that new assembly line is built in the tent. That project was led by Jerome Guillen, who now you just saw just got promoted to, it's sort of like a COO type role, head of automotive, because the tent was so successful. So we went to the tent, and basically it's way more efficient than what they have in the factories. Yeah. Basically because they can have the trucks pull up right to the tent, drop off the boxes of the parts right to the assembly line, and so it's sort of like they were forced to innovate to hit this deadline, and that innovation gave way to a bunch of breakthroughs and how to set up future manufacturing lines. So that's the really good part about the tent, I think.
Yeah.
The
tent. I don't know. Yeah, just from like all the media that went on, I felt like the tent was just going to be this completely disorganized kind of situation. So for all the haters, the tent actually produces more Model 3s than an individual line.
Yeah.
General assembly line in the factory. So the two lines combined definitely produce more than the one outside in the tent. But the one outside in the tent is more efficient. It's in a straight line. There's 43 steps.
Oh, that was the other thing. And there's 43 steps in the inside too. But so the Model 3 General Assembly has 43 steps. They were comping that to BMW and Mercedes, who have like something like 100, 150 steps. And so there was so many different, and actually, you know, there were so many different tidbits that you learn on the tour about why electric cars are just structurally a lot better than internal combustion engine cars. Like even just the Model 3, one tidbit that I'm remembering is like on the outside, it's the same size as the BMW 3 Series, but on the inside, you're getting as much leg room as a BMW 5 Series because they don't have this drivetrain thing at the front, and we're literally on the assembly line. Martin's showing us like this is where that part goes that we don't need. Additionally, he showed us the video of from a side test crash angle, like if this is the side of the Tesla, if you do a pole side test, against a Volvo, the Tesla had like way better safety stats than the Volvo, which is notoriously one of the safest cars on the road. Why is that? Because they don't have to have this massive tube to funnel the exhaust through the car. Instead,
exhaust and drivetrain that goes through the bottom of the car. They just can put 5 structural beams that kind of go somehow with the battery on the very bottom of the car there. That just creates a huge amount of extra support.
Yeah, and so those structural beams are why it's so much better in crashes. And so just so many little tidbits of like that. And then, you know, what's so fascinating about car factories and just, you know, being at the factory here is there's so many, it's kind of like a shit show when you go to the Tesla factory. Like this is an old facility that was by GM or Toyota. Like there's I've never been to another car factory, so I don't know, but like robots moving everywhere. And you can tell that like with the GA3 they messed up. They build something out. It takes months and months of planning and buying robots and millions of dollars to build something out. If you've organized it the wrong way, like you don't get a second chance to do that until you build a new factory. So what gets me so excited about Tesla is, you know, this is a company that I think has learned so much from this Fremont facility, that has learned so much from doing the tent and all of this, that I think like what gets me so excited is Tesla taking all of these learnings to build their next Gigafactory or next factory
3.
Or Gigafactory 1, which I believe is about to have general assembly. You know, they've mentioned that every future Gigafactory is going to build cars too, and you really just appreciate the expertise that Tesla's learned about ramping manufacturing, and all their trials and errors, you know, with the tent and et cetera, are going to lead to huge advantages in streamlining production in the Gigafactory. So that has me super excited about that.
I think a good analogy for that too is like the Tesla is one of the best or the best electric vehicle out there because it's built from the ground up to be an electric car. Like the new Mercedes EQ, whatever that just got released, it's still using the platform of an ICE vehicle. So they have to make a lot of sacrifices there. And, you know, the Tesla factory here that's current was kind of already existing. So they weren't able to build it from the ground up. But going forward, Gigafactory 1, Gigafactory 3 in China, they could really build it from the ground up to be optimized, just like, you know, the Model 3 is easier to assemble. Like they built it for simplicity, way less wires and components to assemble. Like that's how they got general assembly from 150, you know, steps to 43 steps. So
Yeah, and that's so crazy is talking to Martin. It's just you really appreciate when the mainstream medium skeptics will say, "Oh, Volkswagen, Mercedes can build hundreds of thousands of cars per year. Like that's their advantage, and why they can catch up to Tesla immediately." Like I actually think the biggest disadvantage is that all of those business models have been built on these previous manufacturing techniques that have no applications or synergies really to the electric vehicle production. Yet they're trying to adapt all these lines and sort of half-ass it into electric vehicle production because they don't know how many they're going to sell. Like BMW, for instance, they only sold about 30,000 of their i3 car, way less than expected, not enough to justify building out a whole new production system for that vehicle. So going forward, they want to compromise where they can have a drivetrain and car production process that can accommodate ICE cars and electric cars. And like that sort of half-assed commitment to the future and not starting from scratch is a huge, huge Achilles heel. And I really think we've only seen Tesla, really take this approach of like, we're going to go straight to the drawing board and just recreate what a production process looks like. So, that's sort of in the weeds about what the tour was, but like from a high level, my takeaway is just like, as an investor, like I sort of think in apocalyptic sense, like I want to own assets that like, no matter what government or country exists, like I think this is a really good asset to own. And like when I see Tesla, like this is an asset that I want to own and be invested in. Like this factory goes as far as you can see. There's like all these really smart people working here. There's all these cutting edge robots. Like maybe today they're building cars. Who knows what they're going to be building next? Like all the expertise, like they even this tidbit of like on the touch screen of the Model Y in factory mode, it's constantly recording every single thing done to the car, which is then put in a database. So if something goes wrong, you can go back and check it. Like just the technology that Tesla has to manufacture things is mind boggling. And this is, like the people that think Tesla's a fraud or Elon's a joke or you just got to walk the factory and you get a sense of just how cutting edge, how difficult, how complex. When you read about a fire or something going wrong or there's a tent or there's a box that is misplaced, like of course, like this is the biggest factory. There's probably 20 things going wrong at once. They're trying to ramp up like crazy. Like it's just a really, really tough business. And I think you don't appreciate the complexity until you're here in person.
Yeah, and anyone can sign up for a Model S or X factory tour. I think they run them daily.
I think you might have to get a car though. Like I think when you like a lot of people are picking up their car and then they get the tour.
Maybe.
I don't know if you could just go.
But it's worth checking out because they do have, the S and X for non-investors just to kind of check out the factory. You go around in a little, golf cart train thing. You could just see the, all the assembly lines, basically everything but the Model 3. Definitely worthwhile.
Oh, and we actually drove a Model 3. That was the last part of the tour, performance Model 3. I mean, when Elon says that Teslas are not cars, they're machines designed to maximize fun, like could not be more true. The Model 3, I mean, Julian's way more of a gearhead than I am. I don't even drive because I live in New York, but I was blown away by the Model 3, like unbelievable acceleration, like just you walk up to the car, it already knows you're there, it opens, you adjust the settings of the seat, the steering wheel, it saves that to a profile automatically. You can it's just, the voice control was good, which I actually thought was going to be lagging, but I thought the voice control was solid. Like it's just a car of the future, everything is built with software first. It's all connected. And it's just, it was a blast to drive. What did you think driving it versus like M3s or like those kind of other sportier cars?
I think, it goes back to saying like the P3D that we drove really it's not just an electrical, an EV, like it is an amazing car to drive. Like everything feels well put together. The steering, the acceleration is fucking bananas, excuse my language. But it's like, it's just one of those, it's hard to compare to something else, even like an M5 or that has, a V8 bi-turbo. It's like, it makes a lot of noise, but it's almost that.
And it's almost like those cars, like what I got the sense, like once you go to drive the Model 3 to drive one of those cars, like that feeling of like the gear shifting and like you think it's awesome, you sort of feel like the car's trying too hard and like on the cusp of braking and just feeling rickety. After the Model 3 can go even faster just so smoothly. Like that's what I feel like. Whenever I drive an internal combustion engine car, I'm like, wow, this is like rickety and like, I don't know, it just...
I think there's a lot of people out there, though, like they enjoy the mechanical feeling of an engine, maybe you have a stick shift, but even and I love, a 5-speed or a 6-speed, but, like, the Model 3 driving experience is completely different. Like, you get this instantaneous torque whenever you want, all the time. You just punch it, and it goes. And the motors aren't asking for... The electric motors aren't asking... whining at you, switch gears, you just kind of punch it and go. Very
so
simple.
Quiet.
Yeah.
So, Julian, at a high level, what were your takeaways from the tour? What do you think? Anything that stood out?
I mean, I just think like sometimes people just got to take a step back and really look at what Tesla is doing. Like, look at how difficult it is to just produce one car, and you know, they're getting more efficient. They're learning from, you know, even every 1,000 cars
that's got to be
building,
the biggest
they're
thing.
learning.
Constant like the rate of improvement for Tesla, like every single thing they're constantly refining.
And I thought, just like on a cultural level, something really interesting that Martin mentioned was, you know, some of their favorite people to hire for the factory are those who have only a little bit of automotive experience, maybe some food production experience, maybe some semiconductor manufacturing experience. And it's like, when you only hire people from the automotive industry who have been doing the same method of manufacturing for the past 25 years, how are you going to innovate for the next 25? And that's where you can bring in ideas from all these different types of manufacturing and, you know, come up with something that really works for Tesla, you know, going on the future.
Right, and actually you reminded me another cultural tidbit that's related that Martin was saying about this change to profitability. You know, we need to start making a profit now. We've been a company for 15 years. I sort of pushed back on that because I was like, look, I think Tesla is growing like crazy. You still need to invest. Like, let's just lose billions and tell the market like that and screw it. But he sort of opened my eyes to this new theory of like, by pitching profitability, Tesla's always been in this, of course we're losing hundreds of millions of quarter per phase. And so there's a big cultural shift towards let's be profitable now and sort of mature up as a company, watch our costs. And so I think that on a broader level actually makes me really more excited and a lot more understanding of where Tesla's coming from, when in the press you're reading like, we're gonna hit profitability this quarter, and it sounds like they're focusing on the short term and just missing everything. But really they're taking a strategic long-term bet to say we need to grow up as a company, be more mature, and like start enforcing these like profitability norms in our culture now. And so I thought that was promising too.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, at a high level,
cultural shift. That was an interesting way to think about it.
Yeah. And he mentioned the executive turnover. I asked him about that. I didn't want to, but like I think Martin gave a great response, which is kind of what I've said a lot. Like, Tesla's a fast-paced environment, super open floor plan. Like, Martin's desk is right there. It's all open. Deepak's desk is 2 feet away. You know, like anybody can go talk to anybody. Like, it's just not a culture fit for everybody. It moves super fast. There's a ton of pressure. Like, you know, I think this is just Amazon. You look at Amazon in the early days, like this is just how those cutthroat companies are. That's, you know, this is Silicon Valley, like they're disrupting industries, like, you know, like shit breaks, not everybody's a fit, and that's why people like Dave Morton leave after a month. And so, I don't know. And also at a high level, like I think this video or this tour made me way more bullish on like Tesla overall. Just seeing and talking through what the other automakers doing and looking at what Tesla's doing, just it really puts into context how far behind they are and how flat-footed they are and how fast Tesla's learning and just leaving everybody in the dust. And so I don't know, I'm more excited and bullish than ever. Like, we were here at the factory 2 months ago, there was no tent or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, now they have a tent that's pumping out, like, can build 2,000 cars a week.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and so, the other big thing about profitability is that the labor hours per car to go to 5,000 Model 3s per week per 10,000 Model 3s per week is going to go down dramatically. Like, Tesla even thinks that they can keep the same amount of workers and just double the amount of car production because they're getting so much better at reducing. Yeah, the goal is to do that by reducing the labor hours per car. So I think, you know, and this is something like what I'm very patient with Tesla's gross margin and the ramp because I understand it just takes time. Like, to build the robot and refine it and get it working could take several quarters, and then you got to ramp up economies of scale at the same time. Like, it's just a long process to make these gross margin improvements, and Tesla's going through that right now, and that's why people get very confused that like, okay, well, if it's not profitable today, how could it be tomorrow? But then you go to the factory, realize how they can streamline labor hours, and so it just all clicks and makes sense. And one thing that also I think is maintenance CapEx is minimal compared to growth CapEx for Tesla. And when you see the robot lines and you see that they just already build it, install it, it's all about refining the software. It totally makes sense. I think that's one of the biggest misconsistencies about understanding Tesla's financials is that their CapEx is for a lot maintenance when really it's almost all growth. And when you look at Tesla in that way, they're an incredibly profitable company. So, I don't know. What else do you think? You guys got any questions maybe? Like, we can try and read some. Also, we got these awesome Tesla construction hats. Definitely keeping them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Something that keeps coming back to me though is just like, you know, figuring out how to assemble, or something that Martin was really humble about, going back to those like the labor hours per car, is, you know, maybe a BMW or a V-Dub, like they can produce 30% more cars with 30% less people. But, you know, Tesla, like we said, is, you know, relatively brand new automotive manufacturer. And, you know, they got to learn. And, you know, they're trying things, they're learning fast, they're putting up tents in 17 days.
They're not afraid to fail. And I bet every other automaker is afraid to take big bets and fail. And that's maybe making Tesla look stupid in the press now, but those failures are leading to insights and advantages and streamlining production, like the tent, that is going to be a huge advantage long term.
Yeah.
So that's...
They put the millions of dollars into the conveyor belt system. 6 months later, they said, hey, you know, maybe we could do this in the future, but we got to scrap it now.
Yeah, and so, I love that humbleness in their culture of like, we can be wrong, we can mess up, let's just keep improving and do it. We've been live for a really long time, so I'm thinking of ending it soon. Production rate. Oh, this is what I love. Everyone's asking me I don't know. I just couldn't care less about production numbers. The last thing I'm gonna take Martin's time is asking him some BS stuff about how many cars Tesla's building. Because first of all, if you follow the VIN data, the Bloomberg tracker, it's pretty easy to follow what Tesla's doing. Like, they're probably building 5,500, 6,000 cars burst rate if they went all out for a week. More steady state, they're probably building and delivering around 4,000 to 5,000 cars right now. Like, we all know that. That's out there. Like, I'm not gonna ask about that. And I think that focus on short-term like goals that are just meaningless is really where the press misses what's happening. And for the record, we didn't get to meet Elon. Hopefully we will in the next meeting. He wasn't here because apparently Model 3 production is actually going okay, so he doesn't need to be here. But
focusing on deliveries. I think.
Focusing on deliveries or
Sounded
something.
like that was actually a new bottleneck. It's no longer the actual production.
Yeah.
But figured out how to deliver the
Figuring out how to deliver the cars. And it's not like a bad, and like once again, like Shorts are pointing out all these cars in parking lots, being like Tesla's gonna have their shit together. It's like, these are just the growing pains. They're about to deliver 3 times as many cars as they were a year ago. Like, that's just a lot of growing pains to go through, and yeah. So let's see if we got more questions. Profitability. I think when you see the Q3 financials, you will see a tremendous improvement in profitability. I mean, you know. Oh,
first pass rate. Did we ask about that?
Nah, I don't know. I feel like these are the BS questions though. Like, like the first pass rate and like inspection, like who cares what it is? They're improving.
I think that goes back to our point that they're just learning. You know,
they're just learning. Like,
people
there's gonna be a lot of fuck ups.
People were talking about, you know, panel gaps, and Martin was saying, all right, well, they have this machine that you know, with lasers and vision cameras kind of lines everything up and, you know, puts the trunk on, the hood on, and it's like, all right, it takes it 1,000, 2,000 cars to learn how to do it perfectly, and then once it, you know, every car it installs that on, it gets better and better until it's going to be way better than any human could ever do. Yeah. So, you know, this is just part of being patient, new manufacturing processes, and that's starting from the ground
up. And like
up,
maybe they have a guy like helping and making sure that it goes on correctly.
Yeah.
So there's a shitload of additional labor hours that are immediately about to vanish once it improves. So the labor hours are about to decrease and the quality is about to improve on that production process. And that's just one like micro example of it.
Yeah.
Maybe. Should we see if we have any questions?
No, we should give a shout out to Tesla
V9.
Q.
Yeah, shout out to Tesla Q.
Shout out Tesla Q. We love you.
We love you. Keep hating, honestly. It's just like, I would recommend every single Tesla. Like, if you're an investor in a company, the number one thing on your agenda to do should be go to visit that company. Like, I don't know how many Tesla investors have done that. It's harder when you're a company like Tesla. We used to be investing in Jones Soda, and like if you go back to watch HyperChange, like number 2, it's me and Julian talking about Jones Soda. Like, we just showed up at Jones Soda, which is like a $20 million microcap soda company. We just showed up, like, and talked to the CEO because she was there, and no one else showed up, and we learned 10 times more about the company we ever did just by showing up one day. So like I think that's part of the DD that I'm doing. Like, you know, this is, I think it's hard to like put into words why it makes me more bullish to come here and see it, but I just think there's like a special connection that you build with a company when you visit that's like priceless. So I would recommend it to everybody. Anyway, huge shout out to Tesla and Martin for letting us come on the tour. I think they're incredibly forward thinking to let HyperChange come on and let me share everything with retail investors as openly as possible, try and, you know, connect you guys with my tour as much as possible. I think is so much better than just having bankers do it and send it to their clients. Like, Tesla's 10 steps ahead of every other big company on Wall Street in doing this by letting us come. So I think Martin's super forward thinking, and all of Tesla is, and a huge thank you to them. Am I going to the Litecoin Summit in SF? No, I'm not. Next factory location, don't know. Posting this on YouTube. Anyway, shout out HyperChangers. Me and Jay Filchi reporting live from Tesla Fremont. More bullish than ever. Had an epic tour. Happy Tuesday. See you guys next time.
I'll order a Model 3 once I can lease it, because I can't afford to buy one with cash.
Yeah. Yeah, Julian wants a Model 3 though. That's the takeaway from our driving test, is Julian is already like scheming on how he can get a Model 3 before his parents do. So. All right, peace out, HyperChangers.